Sound check, 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this evening's Agenda Briefing Forum. This evening is not a decision-making forum, it is a briefing on the agenda for the Ordinary Council meeting, which will be held next Tuesday, the 28th of October 2025. I'd like to remind everyone in the chambers to ensure that comments are respectful to the Council and all meeting attendees, including city officers and those in our public gallery. Please note this meeting is being live streamed. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Item 3 is announcements, and there are none this evening. Item 4 is attendance, and all councillors are present in the chamber. Item 5 is disclosures of interest. Councillors, do you have any interest to disclose? Councillor Ladder.
Thank you. On 10.3.3, Local Road Safety Program, Maylands Peninsula Precinct, I have an impartial interest due to having my home in the area but not adjacent to any of the proposed works. On 10.4.1,
So is that what type of interest?
Sorry, impartial, I'll stay in the room.
Thank you.
10.4.1, I have a proximity interest due to being across the road from 96 Caledonian Ave. And I will leave the room.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I have an impartial interest on item 10.3.3, the Local Road Safety Program, Maylands Peninsula Precinct. I own property in the catchment, but none of the proposed treatments are adjacent to my property. So I will stay in the room.
Impartial.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sutherland.
I've got a proximity / maybe financial interest in 10.1.3, proposed naming of road bordered by Foyle, Cat, Drake and Canterbury. We own properties in Canterbury and Drake. So I'll leave the room.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have an impartial interest for item 10.4.1, proposed change of use to short-term rental accommodation, lot 696 Caledonian Avenue, Maylands. My employer has a financial relationship with a client, which in turn has an association with the applicant. After discussing with the governance team, I'm satisfied that this is an impartial interest, and I'll stay in the room.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll declare an impartial interest in item 10.1.3, proposed naming of road bordered by Foyle Road, Cat Court, Drake Street and Canterbury Road, Bayswater. We have received a deputation this evening, and the lady, Angela Kudamarkis, probably doesn't remember me, but I went to school with Rula, her daughter, and she's mentioned in the deputation. So that's an impartial interest and I'll be staying in the room. Okay.
Sorry, Madam Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Mine will also be for 10.1.3, an impartial interest, the same as yours, except for I've met with the deputy at a property to discuss the naming of that lane in previous years.
Thank you. Councillor Pittaway.
Madam Mayor, I also have an impartial interest on 10.1.3. I own investment property on Foyle Road, but it's in that catchment area, but not directly related to Cat Court sort of thing. Yep.
So you'll be staying in the room?
Yeah, I'll stay in the room. Yep.
Thank you. Anyone else? No, so we'll move on to item 6, which is deputations. This evening we have 5 in-person deputations, and I'll explain how the process will work. Each person who is presenting a deputation will be invited to come forward to speak at the microphone for up to 5 minutes. As we get close to 5 minutes, I will let you know so that you can conclude your deputation. Once you have finished, the councillors may have some questions for you. So the first one is in relation to item 10.1.1, the establishment of council-appointed bodies for the term ending the 16th of October 2025. And we have Stuart Jenkinson has requested to speak in opposition to the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. on agenda item 10.1.1, which addresses the establishment of council committees and advisory groups. I've previously served on the City's Inclusion and Diversity Advisory Committee and more recently on the Disability Advisory Group. Through my involvement with these groups, I've witnessed and supported the City's ongoing commitment to promoting inclusion and diversity within our community. While I appreciate the City's proactive stance on these vital matters, I wish to raise my concerns regarding the recommendation to disband the Disability Advisory Group. The current proposal suggests merging the Disability, Youth and Older People's groups into a single entity called the Inclusive Bayswater Advisory Group. Drawing on my experience from the Inclusion and Diversity Advisory Committee, I found that merging several distinct interest groups into one forum was not effective. The diversity of voices was often diluted, resulting in underrepresentation of each group and a lack of focused attention on the unique issues that are most important to each community. My concern is that adopting the recommended format will lead to these same challenges, leaving the specific needs of each group inadequately addressed. Furthermore, I've reservations about the proposal to expand the terms of reference for the Active Transport Advisory Group to include advice on active transport matters impacting people with disability. Contrary to the officer's recommendation, I do not believe this change, along with the creation of the Inclusive Bayswater Advisory Group, will reduce overlap between advisory groups. In fact, I believe it will increase both overlap and disconnection. I urge councillors to consider these concerns carefully when deciding whether to support these recommendations or not. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your deputation, Mr Jenkinson. I'll just ask if there are any questions from councillors. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you for your deputation and providing those comments. So I understood the concerns. I'm trying to understand what is your suggestion. Would you propose that the whole disability issue or issues around for people with disabilities will be together, but still be given to one of those advisory groups, either the inclusion or the active transport?
Ultimately, I think a standalone disability advisory group would be the ultimate outcome. If that's not possible, having disability under diversity and inclusion, under the diversity and inclusion group.
Okay.
But that doesn't allay the issues of having probably two representatives from each minority group around a table. Those voices, they're competing voices, for the want of a better term.
Okay.
Each highly important, but from my experience previously, I've got no experience in any of those other minority groups. I sat there for most of the meeting, not being able to contribute.
Okay. Thank you. So just to summarize, if the decision is still to add it to one of the other proposed advisory groups, you're thinking that it will fit more with the inclusion one?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? I'd like to ask a question while I have this opportunity. I know that you have been a member on our advisory boards previous to now.
Yes.
And I just wanted to ask your view about the effectiveness of it and whether you have seen good outcomes come from that.
From the more recent Disability Advisory Group, yes, there has been, I believe, good outcomes. I can't speak for other members or councillors, but under the previous format, not so much.
Okay. And when it was the Disability Advisory Group,
Yes.
what would you change? Would there be anything you would change in that scenario? Because I know that you're not comfortable with the scenario where it's all combined.
Yeah.
But when it was the disability on its own,
Yeah.
Would there be anything that you would recommend changing to that structure?
if anything, expanding the number of community representatives, because I think there was only 6 or maybe 8. If it was 8, that's okay, but there was often only a few
Okay.
people around the table.
All right.
But we're a small cohort, and trying to get broad representation from the community is a challenge. I understand that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, councillors? Deputy Mayor.
Yes, thank you. Just a follow-up question from the Mayor's question, because I know you've been on a few committees, not just one, with regards to this issue. Do you feel from your experience that having a committee or advisory group dealing with this important issue is the tool to discuss and address those issues? Or perhaps there might be more effective or more better ways to engage with people affected, for example, a forum once a year on the issue, or other ways to do that so we can have more people? Is this something, or you do think that having that mechanism of advisory group with several of community members around the table is a good one to keep?
That's a double-edged answer. People with disabilities and their families are historically over-consulted, or they feel they are over-consulted, but underrepresented, if that makes sense. I would rather be at a table more often than not, so I would rather have similar format to what we've had, regular meetings of community representatives and councillors and staff, rather than 1 or 2 forums throughout the year. I just don't think they would be effective.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Stuart, for your deputation. I understand you were a member of the disability group prior to this term of council?
That's correct,
That's
yes.
correct. Was the group consulted prior to this change being proposed in this month's agenda?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you very much for your deputation. So we'll now move on to item 10.1.3, proposed naming of row bordered by Foyle Road, Cap Court, Drake Street and Canterbury Road, Bayswater. And we have Angela Koutamarkis speaking in opposition to the officer's recommendation. Please come forward. Yeah.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Council members. I understand that there has been relatively few submissions regarding the naming of this right-of-way, and I would like therefore to respectfully ask that my naming suggestions be considered given due consideration. I'm very nervous. I've been seeking to name this right-of-way, which adjoins my property, for over 4 years, and my initial contact with the council in 2021. However, the process at the time proved challenging due to the number of requirements and restrictions in place. It was upon my receiving the written notice in May 2025 and speaking with the council, I became aware of recent changes to the criteria, the naming criteria. My husband and I moved into 22 Drake Street, Bayswater in 1980, and it's still our family home that I live in to this date, 45 years later. Our 2 children were born in 1980 and 1984 respectively, and lived in our family home until they moved on to start their own families. We are a traditional Greek family raising our children and now grandchildren in the Bayswater area. Unfortunately, my husband Evangelos had a heart attack at the young age of 46 years, which revealed an underlying heart condition, cardiomyopathy, that rendered him unable to return to his work. Therefore, after recuperating at home, he devoted most of his time on our property by planting 5 olive trees, 1 mulberry tree on the verge of the cul-de-sac at Cat Court, plus many citrus trees and a garden made up of vegetables and plants. This was to pass his time while also reminding him of where he came from, the village of Kipi in the state of Evros, Greece, where he migrated in the late 60s. These trees are still thriving in the cul-de-sac. It's quite fitting, actually. The name of a hometown village of Kipi means garden, which Bayswater back in the day, market gardens. My husband Evangelos was president of the Hellenic Club in Stirling Street, Perth, and we maintain our connections with the Greek community and the Bayswater community with schooling and sporting clubs. The migrants from Europe and other parts of the world play a strong part in bringing up their families in our city suburbs and bringing a sense of community to the area. Evangelos also received his Australian citizenship in Bayswater. However, Evangelos' community involvement came directly from the neighbours passing by the property each day. The sense of community was established by a simple means of saying hello to each other and having a chat while he was tending to his garden. By far, this is the greatest contribution to the community, the human factor of the community. As for the rest of our family, my children went to Hillcrest Primary and John Forrest Senior High and were heavily involved in the Bayswater Little Athletics and Embleton Little Athletics Club, where my daughter Rula was centre captain of Bayswater Little Athletics and my son Vaos held a record for triple jump for many years. And also both our children were state champions, athletic champions, which made us very proud. Rula also received a City of Bayswater scholarship in 1995 for sportsmanship. My daughter Rula is a pharmacist and did her training internship and worked for many years at JP Inglis and Sons, which is now Pharmacy 777, Bayswater, and also at Pharmacy 777, Maylands. We wish to honour my husband's memory and my children's late father's memory as he passed away in 2004 at only 60 years of age. Our family would be one of the longest residing residents currently in the immediate surrounding area of the lane, as many have moved on or passed away. The names we propose are Evros Lane, Kipi Lane, and Koudamakis Lane. Evros is a region in Greece which was farming region, growing different things from sunflowers to cotton. Kipi, the village name meaning garden. Koudamakis, our surname, which in itself is quite long. In accordance with Landgate's naming rules and requirements, I believe we do meet the criteria. I also share the view of the neighbouring residents whose property adjoins the right-of-way at the rear block, that the laneway should have a name that is simple, practical and easy for emergency services. Therefore, my list proposed alternatives, I believe Kipi or Evros would be the most appropriate fitting names for the right-of-way. I acknowledge that Hoppy and Stockhill are both names with meaningful local significance within our city of Bayswater. I believe they could be used in other areas within the city. However, this particular right-of-way holds a direct, ongoing connection to our family. We would be honoured to have this right-of-way rather than anywhere else be named in the memory of Evangelos. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much for your deputation. I'll just ask if there are any questions from councillors. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Angela, for your deputation. It wasn't that long ago I was standing where you were, and you did well. Thank you. My question is, have you had a discussion just in regards to, with your closest residents around that laneway there, just in regards to what you would like to name the laneway?
No, you know, when I first contacted the council in 2021, that was put to me to do that. At the time, a lot of the country was locked down. My son was in Sydney, they're having a new baby. He couldn't help me, and my daughter was going through cancer treatment, and she couldn't help me. And a lot of the original residents are not there anymore. I would say I'm probably the only one there from at least 1980 that I know of. So no, I didn't have any discussion because I don't know the people.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other way that you think in your area that we can also, or instead, use the names or in some way the memory of your husband and his contribution to the street and beyond that will still reflect what you're requesting instead of changing the landway name to that, which, as you understand, there was already a process. Is there anything, I don't know where the trees were planted, is there something else that you can think that we can do as an alternative?
About the trees planted in the
Oh,
cul-de-sac?
but using the names,
Well-
the heritage, the thing that you're talking about, but in a different way.
Not in a different way, no. I think because we're closely connected to that right of way, I feel our land is right there, and it's had a lot of significance for us when we moved into the area. I haven't thought of any other way. This right of way lane has always been on my mind before 2021 to do something like this, if that answers your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Osadowski?
Thank you. Angela, I've got a question for
Yes.
you. In the, I understand there was somewhere around, I think it's 8 people from near your area who are adjoining the lane who have provided feedback in regards to the naming of that lane.
Yes.
Are you, do you have good relationship with most of the people who are adjoining that lane at the moment?
No, I don't know anyone. I never see anyone. They get in their cars, they drive through. And no, I don't see anyone. But if it's a matter of knocking on the doors, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, so that's what I was going to ask. Would you be able to knock on some of those doors perhaps and ask them to perhaps send an email to councillors supporting your idea so that
Okay.
councillors can see what that interest would be, because we've been provided the consultation we've been provided the consultation responses, and it would be interesting to see if those people who are adjoining that lane would be willing to reconsider perhaps what they provided in their consultation, and by sharing that with councillors it may allow councillors to see just how important that also is to those people who have already participated. So would you be able to knock on some of those doors and ask them to contact
I could
council?
do that, but are you saying that some of the people in the right-of-way lane have already put the submissions in? Is that what you're saying to me?
Yeah, so I'm saying when we've received the consultation back from those people, and there are a
Okay.
good handful, I think it was eight or nine people in there who have responded saying that they are willing to support one of the names that we suggested.
Okay.
But I'm just wondering if you might have the ability to go to those people who are adjoining the lane and perhaps say, hey, would you consider this as an alternative, and getting them or yourself, or getting them to contact council.
Sorry, Councillor
Sorry,
Osadowski, are you saying like a petition?
yeah, or even just getting them to contact council through their email or telephoning us to, just so we can gauge if there would be support for an alternative at this stage.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do that. I've just got a question mark hanging over my head at the moment. Yeah, okay. If they've already agreed on a name that they would like, I don't know, I'll do my best to get them in my corner.
Any other questions, councillors? If not, thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
If we could get Councillor Sutherland back in the room. Okay, the next deputation is in relation to item 10.3.3, Local Road Safety Program, Maylands Peninsula Precinct. And we have Tom Sutherland.
Hello, can all hear me okay? Congrats to our newly elected councillors. I thought I'd just give you a little bit of background on what the program is, if you've probably got a lot of reading to catch up on. So this is a state roads program for councils to deliver to essentially make roads a safe system and make it safe for everybody. Now that's all well and good for main roads when they have high traffic volumes, because they can pretty much statistically count if 30,000 cars go past a day, you can guarantee that if it's a risky intersection, you'll get a crash. On our local roads around the back streets of the suburbs, there just isn't enough throughput to get any sort of data. So we might have some hidden risky intersections that you can't necessarily capture until sort of it's too late. So the gist of that program is to fund council to deliver safe programs or safe roads, and that's what was started in 2021 or 2022. But the funding from the Road Trauma Fund was drained before all of the infrastructure could be delivered. So I've been a little bit of a squeaky wheel, head petitioner. I only started the process because I had the sort of anecdotal belief just from conversations on the street, dog parks, neighbours, all that, that people were in support and quite worried about in their local area that the roads were too dangerous, too fast. So I thought it was worth my while to actually formalise that with a petition. So 59 signatures, look, I have a job, so going out and physically door knocking wasn't much time to do more than that, but of the doors that I knocked on, very high levels of support. There was one guy who was worried about his trailer bouncing over the speed humps, but other than that, everyone who came to the door was like, hell yeah. Pardon my French, we're live streaming. So that's basically it. Now, so I'm here in support of what has been proposed. I'm hoping that the rest of council can also support what's there. There's been some good work, consultation gone in to make sure that these improvements are going to be compatible with all different road users. I would also say I'm hoping that I can be the voice for the people on, like I live on Caledonian, so I do stand to benefit from these improvements. I guess I don't have a trailer to bounce my tools in, but there's a lot of people on my street that I've seen out walking the dog, actually getting that granular street side perspective, who just don't have the time or don't have the voice to come and do all this petition, deputation, email sort of process, but they're very vulnerable. So either the very young or the very old who just don't have the situational awareness to, you know, be dodging speeding cars on Caledonian Ave. So I hope that we can get your vote to get this stuff done. And aside from that, I'd love to hear any questions from you guys.
Thank you very much for your deputation, Tom. I'll just ask if there are any questions. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Tom, for your deputation. I am a new councillor on this council, so I don't necessarily have the backstory as to how this plan was being formed, but I guess in your opinion, noting the positions and locations of all the raised platforms and the like, do you feel that this is a sufficient plan? Are there any maybe gaps that's been identified by the community or by yourself?
Yeah, on that plan that you have in front of you, not that one, a few pages down, there's the actual map of the peninsula. There's been a few additions in green because keep in mind the original consultation and traffic studies were done back in 2022, which is roughly when I've moved to the area. But since then, I'm out there walking my old dog every day. So I've had that street side perspective and more conversations since then. So there are additional improvements noted. So yeah, in support of those two. Essentially, it's making sure it's safe around the school. You've got a little strip mall with a Kumon on Caledonian Ave. That gets a lot of after-school traffic and buses, which is super risky because that's a downhill run. And just essentially, it's a hilly area. So wherever there's a really high-speed bit or a risky intersection, there's been a proposed improvement for people to get around the suburbs safely.
Yeah. And just a follow-up question from that. You mentioned the Maylands Peninsula, was it the primary school there?
That's right, yep.
So do you feel that that plan has sufficiently addressed those concerns from that community?
Look, this is one of multiple plans. This is one bucket of money. So the low-cost urban road rolls off the tongue. But there is also, I believe, a petition from your parents of the primary school who wanted safe routes. There are already a couple of improvements that have been done. So there's wombat crossings on one side, on the Kelvin, and then I believe on the whatever the street on the southern side of school that has some improvements. So you note on that map along Meafan there, it's added a couple more improvements, which is sort of covering off that sports oval, which is quite highly used, and another way that kids might be getting to school. Look, I'm just one person, so, you know, I can, that's my sort of dog walking radius where I can get in a reasonable day. But I would say if there's anything that I've missed or we've missed, we should at least keep an eye open, measure the improvements. There may be more as people get a sort of a taste for the safer roads.
I always appreciate that perspective. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions, councillors? If not, thank you very much.
Could I don't know about this process. Does anyone have any concerns or sort of negative takes on this that I might be able to assuage any concerns?
That will be something that council will debate next week.
For council?
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, so we move on to the next deputation, which is in relation to item 10.4.1, proposed change of use to short-term rental accommodation, lot 696 Caledonian Avenue. And Councillor Ladder will leave the room. And we have Gwendolyn
Iwanki
is speaking in support of the officer's recommendation.
Thank you, everybody, and congratulations to all the councillors who've been elected and re-elected. And also for the opportunity to present this deputation in person. And also I'd like to note that I would like to thank the staff who've helped me through this process because it's been a bit daunting. And I feel most of the concerns, I think there were 18 objections raised, and most of them were concerning out of, I think, fear and frustration because of the housing shortage, and also the parking was the second one. So I'd like to clarify a few of those issues and give you councillors a bit of background before you vote next week. So further background was that my Aunt Mavis lived in Unit 96 for approximately 25 years. And when I used to come down from Kalgoorlie, I'd always stay with her because I was very close to her. And then when Unit 5 became available in 2008, my husband and I purchased it so we'd be close to Mavis, and also we realised the opportunity of the property and the location. Our family live in Kalgoorlie, Katanning, Kojonup and Esperance. And this has proved to be an ideal solution for our accommodation needs when we come to Perth. If any of you have lived in the country, you'll understand what that's like, especially with little kids. Now we have grandchildren at school in Perth and in university. There are often times when we need both units because there are more kids and they're bigger, so they actually take more space. The complex at 96 Caledonian Avenue is safe, secure and quiet. The community throughout the complex is quite close, friendly and easygoing, and I would not do anything to jeopardise that relationship. The resident in Unit 7 has a direct view across from her unit into Unit 5 and Unit 6, and she has my phone number and the number of my co-host, so she can contact us, either of us, 24/7 if the need arises. Most residents talk to her regularly. She's retired and she is at home most of the time, and I've known her for the 25 years that I've been there. She would be able to raise any concerns with me as soon as they mention to her, and I feel this gives an extra level of security, as any issues could be raised with me before they actually became a problem. There are 3 security cameras covering the front and the rear entrances, external areas. These monitor directly to my phone, and they cover sound as well as vision. So then I can monitor noise if there was ever a problem. We have been running it part-time as a short stay property for about 9 months. The guests we have had have all shown respect for the rules and for the property. We've only ever had positive feedback from both the guests and the residents at the complex. Unit 5 has been used consistently since we purchased it, and we furnished that really to suit our own personal family needs. After my aunt passed away 2 years ago, we did a considerable renovation in Unit 6, and it's furnished more generically, so it would suit everybody. And it also lends itself to short-term stay when it's not being used by the family. It was beneficial for us to have both units when my sister and my granddaughter were both in hospital in Perth over a prolonged period of time having chemo treatment. This allowed both for support and for privacy, and a number of the guests who've stayed with us have been in Perth for medical appointments, and they've really appreciated the quiet ambience and security of the complex. In my original application, which now I wish I had revised a little bit more, I actually presented it as we use the unit as a family and not actually how we use it when it's let for short-term stay. Obviously now, I will conform to the conditions for the application approval. There'll only be 3 people staying at one time. The issue of parking was also raised as an area of concern. So if you have a look at the photos that were attached for the agenda items, in my initial application, I stated there were 2 car park spaces accessible to the person, because it's hard to tell on the plans, and really it's not very clear in the photos either, but because Unit 6 is on the end, 1 car can park underneath the cover and 1 car could park behind them, and there's still plenty of room for other cars to move in and out. But that also has been addressed, because now there's only going to, visitors will be told there's only 1 car park to be used, which will be the undercover one. And as Unit 6 it's the last unit, and at the rear of the complex, there's adequate room for 2 cars to park in the entrance area. So 1 can park in front, 1 can park behind. And that's not obviously, as I said before, on the plans. The visitor parking area is really quite considerable. It's really difficult to appreciate how big it is from the plans.
I'm just sorry to interrupt, but we're at 6.5 minutes.
Oh,
so
sorry.
If you could summarise
I've just about finished.
Yeah.
So that's it. The parking area has been resolved because we're only going to have 1 park per resident now. So has anybody got any further questions?
Thank you very much for your deputation. I'll ask if there are any questions from councillors. Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Gwendolyn, for your deputation. Just in regards to what you've said there, you said that it's currently being used as an unhosted short-term rental for the last 9 months. Is that correct? Thank you. And have you had any complaints from neighbours, either directly to yourself or through any other method at all? No. In regards to noise or car parking?
No.
And do you know, off the top of your head, how often it's been used as a short-term rental? A rough percentage will be fine.
It varies. Some months, if there's a lot of things going on, we're all down and we use it, so it's not available. I just block it out. And I don't know, some months we don't come down, so it's let for a couple of weeks in the month. Yeah.
No worries. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions, councillors? Thank you very much for your deputation.
Thank you.
Okay. The next deputation is in relation to item 11.2. Oh, we just wait for Councillor Latta. The next deputation is in relation to item 11.2, Councillor Latta, representation of council positions on external bodies, and we have Georgia Johnson speaking in support of the motion.
It's been a while since I've been this side of the table. It's a bit scary. Congratulations to all the newly elected councillors in the council. Good to see you all. I didn't expect to be here so soon, but I think this item is really important. Excited to see it on the agenda. There's 2 points to it. It talks about the representation of council positions at external bodies. I think that if you're on an external body, representing the council position would be the bare minimum expectation of in your role as councillors. And I think that's common sense and not at all contentious. Next week, you'll be voting to people to your external bodies, and they're a great opportunity to get involved. WALGA in particular is a great opportunity if you're interested in advocating or having influence over sort of sector representation to state government on policy issues. And if you did go to the WALGA committee, it's a zone system, and members of the zone are then elected to State Council, which is a paid hustle and also a good opportunity to represent. So I highly encourage you all to give it a go when the time comes. And there's other external committees that'll be in your agendas that you can serve on. They're great opportunities to be involved. And we shouldn't need this policy, but like all the policies, they are only needed when things go wrong. And unfortunately, things did go terribly wrong on the 21st of August 2025, when a position was put up to the WALGA zone that's discussed in point 2 of the item on your agenda that did not represent the position of the city. It was quite shocking, a bit weird. So this item was put up by the Mayor in her capacity as a deputy, which is entirely her right. It was headed from the City of Bayswater, and it was 8.5 pages of why council terms should be 4 years instead of, council should be elected the complete spiel every 4 years instead of elections every 2 years. I think the point about that issue is actually not relevant, and you as council might have a different view if it came to you, but council did have a position that was only considered 8 months prior to this on the 22nd of October 2024, so I think that might be a date change on that item. And on that, in October of last year, the council discussed a number of items relating to advocacy positions around the upcoming council elections. I think a number of our councillors conflicted out because they were candidates in the state election, and the councillors that were here voted, but except for one, including the Mayor, voted in support of council's position on a number of items, including the terms of office be 4 years and voting be compulsory, and a whole lot of other items that were discussed at that meeting. So council did have a position on this from October 2024, and yet a position was put to the WALGA State Zone to advocate for the opposite in a long report. It's 8.5 pages. You can find the agenda on the WALGA website. That item was not supported at the WALGA zone because it was clear it wasn't the City of Bayswater's position. For items to go up to WALGA zone meetings, they don't have to be the city's position, but the convention is that they are. The advice from the governance folks is it's best at WALGA is it's best practice for those positions to be the council's position, and traditionally when that's happened, when items have come up they're not representing the council's position, I think councillors have been really clear about that. They're representing their own position, not the position of council, which is best practice. So I think that's, you know, in terms of a little bit of background, why this item unfortunately is necessary, and I encourage you to support it.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll just ask if there are questions from councillors. Councillor Latta.
Thank you for coming back so soon to speak with us. Sorry. I just wanted to know, you said that it became clear that it wasn't a City of Bayswater position. Was that obvious from how that motion was presented, or how did that become clear that it wasn't a City of Bayswater position during that meeting?
Yeah, thanks for the question. No, the item was headed City of Bayswater in the agenda. I was there as a member on that committee and explained that it wasn't the council's position.
So it was you that made it clear. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Georgia, for your deputation. From a community perspective, did I guess the subsequent reporting of the Walga meeting, did that cause confusion within the community in regards to the City of Bayswater position in your perspective?
No, unfortunately, what goes on at Walga is not something that the community is largely paying close attention to. So it is actually a place where people can do things without accountability.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Latta.
Did you see the newspaper article saying that the City of Bayswater was advocating for this particular proposal?
I have not.
Any other questions, councillors? I have some questions. So, Councillor Johnson, during your time as the Walga delegate, as well as the chair of the East Zone, did you ever move a motion, second a motion, or vote on a motion where there wasn't a City of Bayswater position?
Potentially. I think everyone there is quite clear about where they've got council positions that they're putting up or not. I think it's always made very clear at the meetings from my recollection. I think everything that we put up was generally consistent. I'm certainly not in opposition to a council position, definitely not. They might not have, and this is the thing, you might not have a set council position and everything comes up at the Walga Zone meetings because they're representing all of Walga, all of the 139 local governments, and there's issues that come up that are not, maybe not relevant to a metro city. They're being put up by a regional council, but, in the interests of, solidarity with other councils, you might support them even though they're not relevant to City Bayswater. So, but I don't think anyone's ever put up, or certainly I didn't put up anything that was contrary to a City Bayswater position.
And what position are you referring to? Which City of Bayswater position are you referring to?
On this particular item?
Yeah.
It was about the advocating for the 4-year council terms.
And that was the report that came to council in October 2024?
Correct.
That's what you're referring to? Just
Correct,
to be
as well
clear?
as, yes, correct.
Okay.
But as well as previous discussions on council.
Okay. Any other questions, councillors? If not, thank you very much for your deputation. So, councillors, we've received 3 written deputations tonight. 2 in relation to item 10.3.2, Garrett Road, Stone Street and Frinton Street intersection signalisation, and 1 in relation to item 10.3.3, Local Road Safety Program, Maylands Peninsula Precinct. These have been provided to councillors and published on the city's website, and I will take them as read. So we now move on to item 7, question on agenda reports. No one's indicated any questions prior to the meeting. Does anyone have any? Councillor Latta.
Can I ask through the Mayor about 10.1.1 and what the reasoning from the city was for amalgamating the advisory groups?
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the, are you still acting director, your manager of governance? Okay.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So the rationale behind the recommendation was really around city officers saw an opportunity to broaden the scope of the Active Transport Advisory Group and to broaden the scope of the Inclusion and Diversity Advisory Group and be able to address what we thought were the needs of the Disability Advisory Group through those 2 different groups, thereby reducing the number of overall advisory groups to 3. It wasn't our intention to in any way diminish the importance of any of those matters or those groups. What we had found was that with the Disability Advisory Group, that a number of the matters that were being raised were around transport or transport infrastructure that we thought could potentially be dealt with through the Active Transport Advisory Group, and that other matters could therefore form part of the agenda for the Inclusion and Diversity Advisory Group. So that was our rationale to expand, to broaden those two things. But I take Mr. Jenkinson's point about over-consultation and under-representation, and I think that perhaps that wasn't something that we understood in making that recommendation.
Just to follow up on that, is there any barrier to us separating them back out again?
I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that will be a decision for the council to make. I think that from a city officer perspective, there are other ways that you could make sure that you structure the agenda of those groups to make sure that all matters received due attention. One of the other things that we did find when we were doing a review of the advisory groups and committees was that the attendance at these groups did tend to diminish over time. So they started out, all of those groups had up to 8 community members on them. In the first couple of meetings, they were generally well attended, and then as time went by, attendance dropped off, presumably due to other commitments. So we thought that there was another opportunity that by broadening the scope of 2 groups, we might be able to get better attendance at all of the groups.
Anything further? No? Deputy Mayor, do you have a question on this item?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you. On this specific issue, Manager for Governance through the Mayor, about the rationale. So I just want to understand. So the intention is to split the disability issue into the 2 committees while having representatives of people with disabilities on both advisory groups. So there will be some on one advisory group, some on the other, but none of them will deal with all issues. Was that the intention?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yes, the idea was that if we broadened the scope of both advisory groups, that community representation on both groups could include those wishing to represent those with disability concerns.
Thank you. I have a different question on this item. I noticed that with regards to the 3 advisory groups, as part of the officer's recommendation, it is not proposed to have a presiding member. Is this intentional?
I'll go to the Manager
So
of
all
Governance.
the committees will have a presiding member, the advisory groups will not, even though in the previous term, obviously, we did have a chair. So if it's a mistake or if it's intentional, if it's a mistake, who will chair?
Through you, Madam Mayor, there's recently been a change to the legislation that requires council to appoint presiding member for its committees of council. With advisory groups, the council doesn't have to appoint the presiding member. It was still our intention that advisory groups would have a chair. It's just that the council doesn't have to appoint that chair. The advisory group themselves can select amongst themselves who they wish
At the
to
meeting,
chair.
the first meeting.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a first question of clarification, just as a new member. Is the Disability Advisory Group currently constituted, or does that expire at the end of the previous council?
I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, the advisory groups and the committees of council expire at each election and are reappointed following the election.
Thank you. A follow-up question from that then. Were the members of the previous Disability Advisory Group consulted on this change before it was included as part of this agenda? And if so, what was the feedback that was received from those consultations?
I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. My understanding is that they were not consulted. I think that what occurred was we thought that we had some meetings left to go in the year, and then because of the election caretaker period, those meetings weren't held, so we didn't have the opportunity to consult with those groups before this report went to council with the recommendations. So these are city officer recommendations. They're not the recommendations of the advisory group.
And just one more question. Have there been previous instances in the past where a advisory group or has changed in a similar way? It's how it operates with or without consultation from the current or previous members?
I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Through you, Madam Mayor, you were testing my memory here now, but I believe that prior to the last election, we used to have an access and inclusion advisory group. Sorry, I can't remember the exact name of the group, and that did include access, inclusion, and disability. At the last. After the last election, the council determined to establish a disability advisory group at that time. So that was a change to what had been put forward by city officers, and it wasn't consulted on with the previous group.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor Latta?
I'm just wondering, in terms of the process of a meeting that might have different representatives representing different interests in the community, and as you said, attendance drops off sometimes over the course of a term. How would the city be dealing with it if, say, the two members representing people with disability weren't at a meeting and weren't able to engage with those issues, and there were only people representing other groups in attendance? So the meeting would still go ahead, but those voices perhaps wouldn't be there.
I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I think it's important to remember that the advisory groups don't have delegated authority, so they're there to provide feedback to elected members and to city officers about pertinent matters. I would suggest that if appropriate representation wasn't available at a meeting, then perhaps any item that had been put forward could be held over until the next meeting and discussed with the appropriate representatives present.
Yeah. Any other questions on this item? No? Are there any questions on any other items, councillors? Deputy Mayor?
Yes, item 10.1.2 with regards to the external committees. Just a few very technical questions. Officers' recommendation, limb 1, when it comes to the to the members, I do recall that the DEP requires us to identify which one will be the first deputy and who is the second one. Is this something that the officers are aware of and would like to suggest to the council when we decide? Maybe there is an order.
Thank you.
I just don't want to have confusion, because I know in the past there was confusion for the DEP secretariat. Who is the first and who is the second?
I'll go to the CEO to respond.
Yep. Through you, Madam Mayor, unless the director knows otherwise, I might take that on notice and we can clarify that before the OCM for when council makes this decision on the first and second deputy.
Thank you. The following page, under backgrounds, there is a list of the external committees, and one of them is the Bayswater Childcare Association. Is this a mistake that it's still here? Just clarifying, because we're not asked to do anything with it, but it is mentioned in the report.
I'll go to the Manager of Governance.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I believe that that's an error in the agenda.
Okay, so previous, okay, thank you. And another small one, later in the report, under the EMRC, almost at the end, below sitting fees, I think that the fee allowance is wrong. It says $111,000. Are you aware of it? Thank you. That's it.
Okay. Any other questions on this item? No? Any questions on any other items? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question on item 10.3.2, the Garrett Road, Stone Street and Frington Street intersection signalisation. Just in reference to the map that's provided on the second page of the agenda piece. Residents have raised those concerns regarding running in that area, noting that there is no right-hand turn proposed on Milne Street coming off of Guildford Road. A lot of concerns have been raised from residents in regards to not having a right-hand turn on Guildford Road towards Garrett Road. I was just wondering if that was considered as part of this agenda piece, and if there are any challenges identified with implementing something like that or if the city has any feedback on that proposal for that right-hand turn at that intersection.
Thank you for your question, and I will go to the director.
Through the chair, the right-hand turn at Guildford Road and Garrett Road is something that the city's been pursuing for quite some time. It would solve a lot of issues in the area if that manoeuvre could be provided for. That intersection is actually under the jurisdiction of the main roads, so all we can do is advocate and work with them in terms of trying to for them to try and provide a solution there. In terms of providing a solution there, it's always been a difficult situation there because of the land take that's required to be able to provide for the additional lanes that are required for that intersection. It's something that we'll continue to pursue. At this point in time, Main Roads don't have any plans to do something there in the foreseeable future, but it is something that we're going to continue to pursue.
Just another question, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in regards to the community consultation as part of LIM 4, just want to get some more details in regards to what that community consultation would look like in terms of the length of time, the timeframes you're looking at, and I guess the area where that community consultation will be looking to take place in.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, we haven't worked out the full details of what the consultation will look like. We will work with our community engagement team to work out what the area needs to be. It'll be most likely the catchment for those particular intersections and the broader area around there. That consultation will probably be a combination of letter drops and also potentially some potential meetings with people, maybe even drop-in sessions and things like that. We've got a fairly good idea in terms of how to run community engagement in terms of road improvements. We've done the engagements in that area for the LCURS program, and we'll probably follow a very similar style to that.
Yep, thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Deputy Mayor?
Yes. I just want to confirm with regards to the consultation LIM 4 that the associated road modifications is also the changes proposed to Milne Street and Guildford Road. That includes that?
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, we'd like to do that as well, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? Any questions on any other item? Councillor Latta.
Thank you. With regards to 10.1.3, the proposed naming of the right-of-way bordered by Foyle Road, Cat Court, Drake Street and Canterbury Road in Bayswater, I wanted to ask if the city had considered, I can't remember, actually using Hugh Cheam's name, their actual name for that lane.
I'll go to the Manager of Strategic.
Through the chair, I'll have to take that one on notice to confirm why we progressed with Hoppy over his formal name.
Okay, thank you. I also have another question about that, whether it's possible for the city to consult with Changhua Association prior to the council meeting with regards to some of the concerns raised by the third consultation response regarding that name?
Through the chair, we can get in contact. We can try get in contact and see if we can get a response from the Changhua Society before council next week. It'll just depend on whether they have the ability to respond to us.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? No? Any questions on any other items? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a question on item 10.3.3, the local road safety program in Maylands Peninsula Precinct. Apologies if this is a newbie question for a newbie councillor, but in terms of the plan that's being proposed on the last attachments as part of that agenda piece, is that set in stone given that the tender has been, well, the contract has been out to tender and we are considering as part of another agenda piece awarding that tender? I guess my question is there scope for changes from this council as part of what's included in here? Open.
Thank you for your question. I'll go to the director to respond.
Through the chair, the map that's in item 10.3.3 relates to the Maylands Peninsula area. Council has approved the treatments under the LCURS program for that. I think it was last year they approved that. That plan does show additional treatments in there. So if you look at the actual plan, I think they're marked up in green. They're the additional treatments. Those ones there haven't been designed or still need more work in terms of design. So they're not finalised at this point in time. They still need to go through Main Roads and get their approval for those additional treatments. So it's not ready to go to immediate tender. It does need to go through a process of finalising those designs, and some of those treatments will probably still require some consultation as well with the immediate residents in those areas.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this item? So I just have a question then. So is there an ability to add additional treatments to this, or is there it's limited by the funding?
I mean, those ones that are shown in green, they are additional ones that need to be discussed with Main Roads. So additional treatments could be added to that. Main Roads have been quite receptive of late in terms of us adding additional treatments. That LCURS plan that was adopted last year was taken through Main Roads. They were supportive of those treatments, but since then they have agreed to adding additional treatments in there. If council wants more treatments in there, we could always try that with Main Roads, and I'm sure they'll consider those. And yeah.
So I just have another question. My understanding that Kirkham Hill Terrace isn't included in these treatments.
That's correct. Kirkham Hill Terrace has some issues in terms of geometry and trying to achieve sightlines. So it was discussed as part of the LCURS consultation that was carried out as part of the plan that was adopted last year. There wasn't any ability to actually put some treatments in there because of the road geometry.
So am I right to understand that that means there's no treatments that can be installed to slow down traffic, which is an issue on Kirkham Hill Terrace?
So the treatments that were considered are the ones that are approved under the LCURS program. So they have a range of treatments that they accept under the program. Whether there's other treatments that could be applied that are outside of the LCURS program, we haven't explored that at this point in time.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? If not, Deputy Mayor?
Yes, sorry. I just want a clarification about the additional treatments in green. So some of them are already based on council resolution from last year, and some of them are additional, but in the same color. So my question is about the additional ones, not the ones that council approved last year. Is the city supportive of all the additional ones, the new ones that have been added now?
I'll go to the director.
So through the chair, some of those treatments that are in green are some of the ones that were approved last year by council that relate to the Wombat crossings.
Yes.
So they're included in those green ones. There's also one treatment that's a roundabout treatment for 9th Avenue and East Street. And then there's additional treatments that came through the petitioner that are also included in that green list.
And so those additional ones will be assessed as part of this process?
That's correct. They'll need to go through Main Roads and have approval through them.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Black?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And again, this might be a consequence of not being on council at the time when this was considered, but the intersection of Kelvin Street and Susan Street, there is on the map there not a current proposed treatment. Was that considered as part of any discussions with Main Roads or internally within the city in regards to where they could be placed, given that that position there is within a school zone as well? I would have thought maybe slowing down traffic within a school zone area may have been a priority of this program.
Go the director.
So through the chair, I mean, all the treatments that are shown on here are the ones that went through the consultation process, plus the additional ones that have come through the petitioner. In terms of why there isn't any treatments on that road, I'll have to take that on notice and just look through the history of what occurred along that street in terms of the discussions and consultation.
Any other questions on this item? If not, are there any questions on any other items? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is in regards to 10.4.1, the proposed change of use to short-term rental accommodation. And yeah, thank you. The deputation today on this item refers to the short-term rental being used for 9 months at this stage. I was just wondering if there have been any complaints received through the city in regards to that operating under its current arrangements, if that's been received by the city, and if so, if they've been handled.
Thank you. I'll go to the Director.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I have to take on notice specifically if there were complaints. What I can say is the applicant has been working with the city to seek approval and has made application, and through that process we received an objection. So I can provide that further detailed information, but they have been actively seeking approval.
And just a clarification question as well, given on the officer's recommendation, Lim 3B, it refers to a maximum of 3 guests permitted at the property at any one time. I just want to clarify, is that when it's being used as a short-term rental accommodation, or is that at any time if, say, for example, the current owner is using it as a private residence at that time?
I'm going to take a guess and say it's whilst it's as the short-term rental accommodation, but I will go to the Director to confirm that.
Yes, Madam Mayor, you're correct.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions on this item? No? Can we get Councillor Latta back in the room, please? Okay. Are there any questions on any other items? If not, I will close the agenda briefing forum at 8:11 p.m. Thank you, everyone. Well done.